Good evening, folks. This is You Know Who. And this is a second chain reaction video of the day. The first one was just an intro to the new YouTube channel. But in this particular chain reaction video, we're going to talk about the right wing. And this is a topic that we're going to continue to hammer on. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the right wing has done a very good job of brainwashing a lot of people, including people that I used to consider comrades on the left. And I will just tell you this, as long as those people are buying into right-wing rhetoric and misinformation and lies, you're not my comrades. Okay? Sorry. You know, this isn't just, for me, this isn't just a difference of opinion. It's the difference between knowing what peaceful civil disobedience is versus violence, hate speech versus free speech, oppression versus freedom for everybody. And the problem I have with the right is I am unable, due to my personal life and my political and social philosophies, to compartmentalize the evil part of the right wing long enough for me to break bread. I can't do it, and I won't do it. So the right has done a very good job of brainwashing people, and they've done this by repeating stuff over and over. And I'm going to continue on with this because all I constantly hear out of these shitbags is how the real violent people are on the left. And, you know, they're on the right. They're not violent. They're fighting for your freedom. So what we've had in the past week is Madison Cawthorn, who represents North Carolina in the House of Representatives, another far-right winger, a seditionist, along with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and Kevin McCarthy and several other of our legislators. And I think the thing that we need to state here before I go into what Madison Cawthorn said is that we really need to understand just how far the radical right and white supremacy has infiltrated this government. This government was bad enough under Nixon. It was bad enough under George W. Bush. It is, if these people are returned to power in 2022, it is, you know, I fear it is game, set, and match for this country. And we're not even going to talk about the legislation tonight. We're going to talk about other things. We're going to talk about who's really calling for violence. Now, I understand that as a reaction to the George Floyd killing and the killing of several other black men who were unarmed, that there were reactions to that resulted in the destruction of property and rioting. I get that. That is a reaction to years of injustice. Okay? I bought this piece of art, which is a black man on his knees saying, "Don't shoot." I bought that in New Orleans on a trip I took there in 2014. Since then, I can't count on both hands how many other black people have been killed since that event. So when shit goes down like that in the streets, It is entirely different than what the right wing is calling for. I don't hear either Antifa or Black Lives Matter continually in the media saying that we want a civil war with the white man, that we want a civil war, that we want a violent confrontation. But that is what I hear from the right. So we're going to start here with what Madison Cawthorn said this week. Now, he started by complaining about, as usual, the election. All right? And his commentary was that the election was stolen once again. We're back to that. The election was stolen. And if this continued, okay, if this continued, it was going to result in bloodshed. These were his words. Quote, "If our election systems continue to be rigged, continue to be stolen, then it's going to lead to one place, and that's bloodshed." This is a member of the House of Representatives, okay? He also referred to the people who are in prison for the events of January 6th as political prisoners, and they're in prison because they don't want, the people don't want to see the mass protests in Washington. Okay, and then of course he goes into the 13 Marines dying in Afghanistan. He runs everything together in one grand run-on sentence. All right. Now, I've also made the statement before, and I'll make it again, that the entire withdrawal from Afghanistan was negotiated, signed, sealed, and delivered by Donald Trump and Mike Pompeo. And during that, they marginalized the Afghan government, who then turned tail and ran. And they negotiated only with the Taliban, which, by the way, the Taliban is now being touted by white supremacists in this country as being patriotic, country-loving citizens. If you don't think that we have a version of the Taliban going on in this country, you're absolutely wrong. We do, and it's on the right. So, there was a specialist on fascism who looked over what Madison Cawthorn said, and these are his words. Quote, "This is propaganda, and he's mentioning it for a reason. He's getting it out there in the public sphere because fascist movements have to work hard at the beginning to get people to see violence differently, to get them to see violence as something positive and as saving the nation, as freedom fighters. This is what the GOP is doing." End quote. We are in a very dangerous situation here, as I have said in the past, and I will continue to say it. Since January 6th, the Proud Boys and other right-wing organizations who had been banned from sites like GoFundMe have partnered up with right-wing Christian websites and have raised millions of dollars. The Proud Boys have now, as a new offense, interjected themselves into the mask mandate discussion. And now their commentary is this. They are calling on the people to, quote, sharpen your knives, get your guns, and prepare for civil war, end quote. The bottom line is the right-wingers will take up any cause they can and piggyback on any cause they can to start convincing the American people that they're being oppressed. This is how all of this mask, medical freedom shit started. It started from the right. I did an entire series on the anti-vax movement that exposed all of that. This is where all of this rhetoric has come from. And when people have an ulterior motive and something to be gained from doing this, they will latch on and partner up with anybody that advances their cause. In the meantime, as we have Republican governors fighting in court over whether or not the school districts have a right to enforce mask wearing, we have children flooding the hospitals in the states that are low vaccination states. Now, these are kids who are not allowed to get vaccines yet because the vaccine simply isn't ready. And yet we're using them as political pawns. The right is using them as political pawns. They do not care about anybody. They care about their cause. And they are well-funded and they are determined. Kevin McCarthy. Now, we're looking into the committee. The committee, the January 6th committee is looking into the events of that day. And again, I have said this. I know the American people would just as soon be happy if it went away because you know what? It's 6 months, 7 months out now. No one gives a shit. Everybody's busy arguing over inconsequential things. But that was, by all logical, you can't get around this. That was an attempted overthrow of this government. That wasn't a peaceful protest. A peaceful protest would have been outside of the Capitol building with signs, even if you stayed there all goddamn night. The Occupy movement was a peaceful protest that went on for months. When you start breaking down barriers, breaking down doors, trying to break in to get to the Senate chamber to stop the certification of a democratically elected president. That is not a peaceful protest. That is an attempted coup. And right-wing radio amped it up, and Donald Trump amped it up. And there are 147 members of Congress who are considered the sedition caucus. And they have received millions of dollars since January 6th from corporate America. And now we have Kevin McCarthy because the committee is requesting records of phone calls, texting, so that they can investigate the members of Congress. And now we have Kevin McCarthy threatening the tech companies if they turn over those files. This is a government investigation. And by the way, the GOP had every opportunity to take part in this. They came to an agreement in the House, and then Mitch McConnell in the Senate chose to block this committee. If people think that everybody should have just then let it go, I'm sorry, I don't agree. The Democrats needed to press forward, and they did so, and they put Republicans on that committee. In fact, Liz Cheney was just named the number 2 person on that committee. We are in deep trouble in this country, people. Violence is the key word, and it is coming from the right, all of it. I will put all of this documentation in here, because if you look at the outside of our new YouTube channel, we're going to work on facts only, okay? I don't give a shit who posts what memes or who says what, if it isn't backed up by facts, I'm not looking at it. I'm not looking at it. And if I can't back it up, I'm not going to say it. There are no people from BLM calling for violence. We have the right wing saying it was BLM that was in the Capitol causing the violence. That's a flat out fucking fat ass lie. There was nobody from BLM inside the Capitol building. There were people from the Oath Keepers, there were people from the Proud Boys, and there were just plain stupid fucking people who followed them. They are reconvening in Washington on September 18th to support the political prisoners who were arrested. On January, as a result of January 6th. And by the way, when we were, prior to the January 6th event, when we were talking about the election process, we knew then that people were calling for violence, and it was ignored. Donald Trump, after the election, spent months battering it into his supporters' heads that he was robbed. Yet he produced no evidence. In fact, everything he tried to take to court got thrown out of court, and many of the judges were Republican-appointed judges. His own attorneys have recently been sanctioned for clogging the court system with cases that were based on lies. And Madison Cawthorn this week continued that lie. Marjorie Taylor Greene has continued that lie. Michael Flynn, the former Secretary of Defense, has continued. The former National Security Advisor has continued that lie. And he has also made references to violence. He will be leading a QAnon meeting in Las Vegas in October. Yet, in spite of all of his commentary about a Myanmar coup in America, or using an AR-15 that was given to him on stage by his supporters when he said, maybe I can find somebody in Washington. In spite of all that, he remains a general. If he has any kind of security clearance or the right to go on military bases, he should be stripped of those now. And he should be stripped of his rank. It's time to wake up, folks, because you know what? Aside from all the oppressive legislation they're passing, state by state by state, in Republican strongholds, we're talking about a civil war at the drop of a hat every time somebody is unhappy about something. And pretty soon, people are going to listen. They are not done yet. It's wake-up time. You know, I can't in all conscience ever support direct democracy in this country again. I don't see that ever happening in my lifetime. The thing that really threw me off was two of the people that we had partnered with on our video calling for the murder of billionaires as a solution to the problem. I was done right then and there. I was not only done with them immediately, but I started evaluating whether I even wanted to go forward with this. And I stopped, and I'm glad I did. It is time for a wake-up call, folks. And I'm going to tell you right now, you either wake up or they're going to wake you up. And if you let them wake you up, it's going to be a very, very, very new day for America. And I can assure you of this. They won't be protecting anybody's rights that's not from their ideological background. Talk to you soon.